Going to do a recording. All right, everyone. Shalom. It's me, brother Doug, again with brother Joshua from the Waking by Yahuwah Assembly. We're going to do a short video right now. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to show my chest area here. My bad about that. We're going to do a short video about how rules for the fellowship and how to run the fellowship. So what I'm going to do here is kind of give you guys, this is mainly for our brothers and sisters that are already in this fellowship, how the fellowship needs to be ran. So we're going to talk very briefly about the difference between guests and members. And now we're going to lay out, I got about 6 or 7 main rules written down here. So just to kind of give almost like a blueprint or a template of how the assembly should be ran. So sorry about that, bro. I just muted you for a second just to get rid of the background noise. Let's see here. So I want to explain first what a guest is. So remember how Yahushua would have the 12 that followed him, decided to follow him after he gave all his doctrine, including if you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you'll have no part in me, which he later on explained to his disciples who already were going to follow him regardless what he meant, and he was being allegorical. But those that couldn't receive it immediately went away. Those were the multitudes. So what we want to show here is that there's a difference between a member and a guest in the assembly. In any assembly, you're going to have members who submit to doctrines. Guests don't. Guests are pretty much just coming on to listen in, and that's fine. The more the merrier. You want to be a guest, fine. As long as you're respectful, no problem. You can continue being on a guest. So that's mainly what I wanted to kind of give the ground rules of that. So first I want to address here, we already talked about what a guest is, what a member is. Okay, ran through that. Okay, guests must raise their hand. Now, what I'm talking about here is when we're on the record, especially when I'm on the record, I'm reading, brother Joshua's reading, any of the members are reading, or if I choose a guest to read, everyone else must stay muted. And really, the members should really be doing that as the guest, just to be, as well as the guest, just to be, respectful. Now, if a member can interrupt, this is the difference. A member can interrupt if they want to interrupt for an important question, but I really want to limit the amount of rabbit trails that's been happening in the past couple of years. So another going to the next rule is, especially if a guest interrupts, at the minimum, I want you to raise your hand first, and then the question must be referring to the study we're doing at that moment. It cannot be any other topic. If you have another topic, please wait until the recording's over. That's what I would recommend. I think that will take away a lot of rabbit trails that have been happening. My stupid shirt, man. Gosh. All right. See here. Guests must raise their hand. Also, guests must ask. Yeah, and I already talked about that. Okay, through that rule. Okay, so a member would be fellowshipping every week. So just to explain more what a member is. Member would be fellowshipping almost every week, or at least 80% of the time is there, either on Friday evening, Saturday day, Sabbath day, Sabbath evening. So that's one of the characteristics of a member. Another characteristic of a member, I already mentioned, you must somewhat submit to the doctrines of the leadership, whether it's me or later on we're going to start having other shepherds of this fellowship that I feel comfortable is in sound doctrine. So you must somewhat submit to that. Whether you agree 100%, that's besides the point, but you can't abruptly challenge the leadership in a disrespectful way. And there has been cases of that in times past with not everyone, but certain individuals that are not here at the moment. But moving on. So, and again, social media, I want to touch on this because there's been the argument here, well, I should be able to preach on my own Facebook page. I should be able to share what I believe, what my opinions are. And the thing is, though, if you're sharing especially if you're sharing in a way where you're preaching to the choir, you're preaching, that's ministry. That's not you sharing an opinion. Opinions are opinions, but when you preach, you're saying that's doctrine and that's supposed to be biblical truth. Okay, so guests, and again, if you're a guest, I can't control what you preach. Obviously, I can't control that if you don't want to be a member of the fellowship. But the member of the fellowship, also, to be a member, you must not preach contradictory to what the leadership of this assembly is preaching. You can't. So if you want to be a member and you want to be considered a member in a close, to be a close brother and sister in the fellowship, that's the difference too with members. Members would be where we have intimate friendships, brotherhoods, sisterhoods, and all that. Okay, so if you cannot refrain from, preaching your own belief systems as doctrine, then you're gonna have to stay as a guest. That's the only thing I can tell you. Okay, so I just wanted to mention those. YouTube is a ministry. Facebook is a ministry. What's the other ones that some of our brothers and sisters are on? The green one, I'm trying to think of the name. That's a little bit not as controlled as YouTube. Zachary Bowers on that platform now. I'm trying to remember. It slipped my mind, but there's other platforms out there. You got the Torah Network ministry. Okay. Members also, and I know this is going to be really something hard for a lot of us to accept, but members cannot fellowship with like many different assemblies and not be dedicated to one assembly. So if you want to be a member of this fellowship, you have to stick to this fellowship. And I don't think we have many people that do that in this fellowship that I've noticed, but just speaking in general, if you want to be a member of this fellowship, an official member, you can't go to that assembly one Sabbath, that assembly one Sabbath, like 5 or 10 different assemblies. We can't have that happening. So flip-flopping can't happen. Okay, so, and again, I want to explain here. This is why the reason I have 2 different messenger groups on Facebook Messenger. I have a group, a while ago, I started a group for guests where guests can message each other, ask each other how they're doing and all that. And then you have the members group. So that's the whole purpose behind that too. So a lot of these rules I wanted to implement in the past 2 years, but it's really been put on my heart and on Brother Joshua's heart by Yahuwah to really start implementing these rules, because we need to have order in the fellowship. The Apostle Shaul Paul talked about order in the fellowship. We're not just supposed to be like, all cattywampus going, all crazy anarchy in the fellowship. So, there needs to be order. There needs to be a blueprint. So hopefully this short little, and actually before I end, I see Brother Joshua's got his hand up. Go ahead, bro, if you want to add anything.
2 things. One, say that if you're on Facebook, period, and you're posting something, you need to make sure that you're double checking what you're posting is right. Because one, you're representing Abba, and it makes us look bad if what you're posting is false information. It makes Abba look bad. It destroys our credibility, as truth bearers. 2, can you expound a little bit more on not flip-flopping back and forth? Because obviously I fellowship with my roommate.
Yeah, like for example, it'd be like you like basically you're flip-flopping to the point where you're only maybe fellowshipping like one Sabbath within a month, or it's constantly, or even in mid Sabbath going to another fellowship. That would be a perfect example. And I'm guilty about it too, but I was mainly doing it because other sisters were trying to introduce me to a brother, Jacob James, back in the day. So I would do that too. So I was guilty of that back in the day, It was wrong for me to do that and encourage that. But you know, in general, if you're fellowshipping with us, you should be with us for that whole meeting. You should not be going to another fellowship, going to this fellowship, that fellowship. Especially when it gets to the point that you're not even consistent in here almost every week. So that would be flip-flopping to me, in my opinion. I'm just trying to see, I'm trying to remember everything. I think I remembered everything. Also, I would say, and going back to the submitting to doctrines, we're not saying you have to believe with everything me and Joshua and other members say. What I mean by this is that if you want to be a member and you submit to the doctrines, you don't argumentatively interrupt and in a disrespectful way challenge the doctrine being preached. So that's what I mean by that. So hopefully that kind of clears that up. This is not a cult here. We're not trying to force you to believe every little doctrine we believe in. So I just want to make that clear. Go ahead, bro.
Like, for example, to give an example, I have things that I disagree with you on, but I'm not going to preach that as doctrine. You know, I'm going to keep that to myself. You know, I'm not going to butt heads about it.
Yeah. So I would say these are rules, brothers and sisters of our fellowship and guests that come to our Awakened by Yahuwah assembly. These are rules that have to be upheld. Okay. And like I said, if you want to be a guest, you can continue being a guest. That's fine. I'm not going to force you on that. Whoever wants to be a member, I would really recommend you honestly really consider all these rules before wanting to jump to be a member. So we only have a handful of members right now, really. In when you guys see on YouTube, you see about, like 10, 20 people sometimes. Really, there's probably only a handful that are actually members at this point. So we have a lot of guests that come on from Sister Sadia and them in California. So mainly I'm doing this video for our whole group right now, just to make the decision within their own selves what they want to do, whether they want to be a guest or a member. Also, please, viewers and listeners, if you are looking for fellowship, just remember these rules have to be abided by you as well. So if you want, let's see what happened. Yeah, so anyway, so hopefully this gives a better blueprint on how to run a fellowship. Hopefully anyone out there that's also shepherds of their own fellowship, maybe this is a good blueprint you might want to use. I know this was out there, 2-3 years ago when I was kind of forced into this shepherd role that I didn't choose. This would have definitely been a good template, a tube template for me. So have a great rest of your day, brothers and sisters. Hopefully this will be well received when it gets up on YouTube and Facebook. So to all our brothers and sisters in Yahuwah Almighty, Yahushua Messiah, have a great rest of your first day. Shalom.
Shalom.